Hello everyone, my name is Reggie. Welcome to my channel. I was originally going to make this video outside because it was such a beautiful day, but time got away from me and now it's dark, so I am just doing this from my rocking chair again. Hopefully we'll get outside for the next one. But today I wanted to do a video about some things not to say to me as an autistic person. A lot of people make videos that I really enjoy, and they are lists of things to not say to autistic people or not say to people who have different disabilities and different issues. And I really like those videos because I think they're really important. Today I want to do this one not as a list of things, but basically 3 things that I would prefer for people to never say to me again. Yeah, so I don't know if everyone will feel the same way that I do, but since this is my channel, I am basically speaking for myself and sharing how I personally feel about these things. So there may be other autistic people who feel very differently, but I'm guessing that if I feel this way, there may also be people who also feel this way. So I wanted to share this with you guys, and please comment on if this resonates with you, if you relate to this and to how I feel, or if you feel differently. So all comments are appreciated and every perspective is welcomed. So the first thing that I would prefer people to never say to me again is the phrase, "You need to understand that we don't understand you." This is something that I hear very often. And I hear it from neurotypical people mostly, but I've also had some autistic people tell me, you need to understand that they don't understand you, referring to neurotypicals or non-autistic people. And I want to, first of all, say that I understand where people are coming from when they say this. And I don't think people realize the effect that it has. And I don't think people realize how it can be received. And so I want to share that with you now. First of all, I don't believe that there is anything at all on the planet that I understand better than the fact that neurotypical people don't understand me. I have understood that since I was a toddler. I have consciously understood that since I was 8 years old. So when people tell me that I have to understand that they don't understand me, trust me, I understand that completely. I always have. And so that's not a new concept for me. I think it's a new concept for them, but it's not a new concept for me. And one of the reasons why I find that phrase particularly difficult is that it usually is told to me after I have asked for an accommodation. I'll give you an example. I was talking to one of my therapists. I have 2 therapists, and I love both of them very dearly. And one of them is the person who actually diagnosed me. And we actually have become friends over the years. And so, we talk a lot about these kinds of things. And I was telling him how when I ask people if they will turn their music down because it can cause me to have significant meltdowns and significant neurological trauma, I oftentimes get very mean and disrespectful responses. And this is particularly bad if I am trying to be in my own home and people are blasting their stereos parked outside my house in the street. But when I was talking to my therapist about this, he said to me, well, you have to understand that they don't understand you. And I was like, yeah, trust me, I understand that better than anybody else in the world. So, but whenever someone says that to me, the one thing I never hear from them is an apology. And that is consistent. Some people will say, like, I'll go to them and I say, hey, you know what? I have this condition. It's really dangerous for me. Can you please turn down your music or not play it while you're parked outside of my house? And there are a few people that are really nice and really sweet, and they're like, oh, I'm so sorry, and they turn it down, and they're really good-hearted people, and I really appreciate them. There are other people, however, who just don't care, who are extremely entitled, and some people even turn it up just specifically to bully me. And this causes me to have a tremendous amount of problems. And when I talk about this, I often hear, well, you have to understand that they don't understand you. And to me, I'm like, you know what? That shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter if they don't understand me. If I ask someone politely, respectfully, and say to them, what you are doing can cause me significant trauma, whether they understand that or not, they should be respectful enough to say, I'm sorry. Now, if they choose to continue, it's like I can't do anything about that. But when someone says something to you and they express that what you are doing is hurting them, the acceptable response is, wow, I'm really sorry. I didn't know I was hurting you, and I will do my best not to hurt you. So when someone says, instead of saying I'm sorry, they say, well, you just have to understand that they don't understand you. What I am hearing from that statement is they don't have to care. They don't have to stop hurting you because they don't understand. And so they can do whatever they want to you, no matter how it affects you. They don't have to apologize. You don't deserve an apology. You don't deserve for them to stop hurting you. You just have to tolerate it because they claim that they don't understand you. And if they don't understand you, they don't have to respect you. That's what that phrase says to me. Now, if you turn the equation around, there are so many things that I, as an autistic person, cannot understand about neurotypical people. But if I say something or do something that they are offended by, even if I have no intention to offend them, I have no idea that what I am saying or doing might be taken in a socially offensive way because I don't understand social implications at all, I am expected to apologize and to stop whatever it is I'm doing, whether I understand it or not. I don't have the luxury of saying, well, you have to understand that I don't understand you, and then I can just keep doing what I'm doing. I'm not given that privilege. So why is it that neurotypical people can use that as an excuse? Because autistic people aren't allowed to use it as an excuse. If I do something socially weird or socially unacceptable, even if I have no concept of what it is that I'm doing because I don't understand, social norms, I don't get that kind of grace. So, and there's a multi-million dollar industry in making sure that autistic people and autistic children comply to what is socially acceptable without ever being able to understand it, just so that we don't offend neurotypical people. So for someone to use the fact that they don't understand me as an excuse to do things that hurt me and cause me significant trauma when I have asked them not to, that's not fair. And for them to then turn around and say, well, you just have to understand that I don't understand you, that's just cruel. So that's the first one. And I'm hoping that as I explain to you how I feel about these things, you will understand a different and new perspective, and to be able to see these kinds of phrases from another point of view, and to see how they might be being received. I know that people don't think about how something is being received. They don't realize how something is being received. So I think it's important that we share how these kinds of things affect us. The second one that I have a lot of trouble with is when I disclose to someone that I am autistic and the person says, oh yeah, I understand autism because I used to work with autistic children. Yeah, okay, good for you. That one is really irritating. Now, I understand what the people are trying to say, and I do appreciate what they're trying to say. I really, really do sincerely appreciate where they're coming from. What I believe they're trying to say is, I'm familiar with autism because I used to work with autistic kids. I understand that autistic people have sensory issues. I understand that autistic people can have communication issues. I understand that, autistic people can have a hard time, with social interactions or whatever. And yeah, I appreciate that. But there's another side to that statement. I'm going to try to make an analogy here, and hopefully it'll be a good one. Imagine if someone said to me, I understand the issues of being Black because I used to teach at a school with black kids in it. It's just it doesn't make any sense. It's or even if I were to say something like, um, if you were to say something to, let's say you were talking to a 60-year-old person, and you said to them, "Oh yeah, I understand the issues that you face, as uh I don't know, as a man, because I used to be a den mother for Boy Scout, cubs." It, it it's so weird, when people say that. I'm like, yeah, I understand what you're trying to tell me, but it's very it just doesn't it's just not the appropriate way to tell people that you're familiar with autism. It's just not. It's just too weird. And another thing that I realized, I was actually having a conversation with a woman on the phone the other day, and she wanted me to join her Facebook group. And we were talking, and I was telling her about some of the struggles that I was having because we were talking about a particular topic, and telling her about my struggles in this area was appropriately part of the conversation. And I told her I am autistic, and so I have these issues. And she said exactly that. She said, "Oh, I understand autism because I used to work with autistic children." And I was like, "Well, I haven't been a child for a very long time, so I'm sure that the way that the issues affect me are probably different from the way they would affect little kids." But she kept saying to me, "Can you go to my Facebook page right now?" And I said, "No, I can't, because it's too visually overwhelming for me to go right now." And she just kept insisting and pressing. And she was like, "Well, can you just try? Or can you just do it? Can you just try?" And I had to tell her 3 or 4 times, "No, I can't. And I'm not going to." And eventually she relented. And I thought about that. And I thought about that interaction. And I was, analyzing it like I analyze everything. And it occurred to me that it was right after she had said, "I understand autism because I used to work with autistic children," that she started pressing me about going to her Facebook page, and she wouldn't take no for an answer. And I had to tell her like 3 or 4 times. And I thought about that, and I was like, what is going on here? And what I kind of figured out is that, I mean, of course, I don't know what her motives actually were. I can only kind of guess from the vibe of the conversation. But it almost felt like she was trying to get me to submit to her authority. And when I thought about it, it kind of made sense, because I thought, why would somebody feel the need to tell me that they had worked with autistic children? Because usually when you're in a position where you're working with autistic children, you're probably a teacher or some kind of caregiver or some kind of, ABA therapist or something like that. And when you're in a position like that and you're quote unquote working with autistic children, from what I know about that kind of work, a lot of it is based on trying to teach autistic children to be compliant to authority. and to be socially more acceptable and to kind of, do what they're told. Um, Now, of course, not every single situation is like that, obviously, but a lot of situations are. And it kind of felt like she was saying to me, you need to go to my Facebook page now. And she just kept insisting and insisting. And I just had to put my foot down and I just had to basically say no, it's not going to happen. Stop asking me. And I think sometimes when people say, I used to work with autistic children, some of it might, even if it's not a, what they're consciously doing, or even if they don't realize they're doing this, it comes across as if they're trying to assert social dominance and social authority. And that is certainly what it felt like in that situation. And so I think the better way to say that is to say something like, I'm familiar with autism. I have had experience, with autistic people. But to say I used to work with or I used to teach autistic children when you're talking to an adult, there's something very social dominating about the way that comes across. And I don't believe everybody has that intention, but that is how it can come across. So I just wanted to put that out there to let people know that might not be the best way to tell somebody that you're familiar with autism, especially if you're talking to an adult. The last one that I wanted to talk about is when people say, oh, but you're doing so well. That's a really tough one for me because that one usually comes when I am trying to express my struggles or my difficulties or the challenges that I have in order to do something or to get through a day. And I was having a conversation with a relative of mine last night, and I was trying to help her understand some of my struggles because we were talking about that. And I was telling her how so often I have difficulty functioning, just doing basic functioning. And it could be something as basic as eating, or even something as basic as having the energy to be able to go to the bathroom, or anything really, depending on what my brain is going through or processing. Anything at all could be very difficult for me to do. And there are days when, if I manage to make something to eat, like the other day, I managed to make scrambled eggs. And I was so excited because I managed to make scrambled eggs, and that was my huge accomplishment for the day. And, sometimes it's like that. Sometimes there are days where I literally cannot do anything at all because my body just isn't functioning because my brain doesn't have the ability to function. And so it can be very, very difficult to consistently be able to do anything. And when I share that kind of stuff with people, I'm not having a pity party. I'm I'm literally sharing it with them because it's important that they understand why I'm not able to do some of the things that they expect me to be able to do. Because people will put expectations on me that I just can't meet, and then they will reprimand me or be upset or criticize me for not being able to meet expectations. So it's very important for me to help them understand what my life can really be like day to day. But it was interesting because I was sharing some of the stuff with her, and she said to me, "But you should be so proud of yourself, and because you're doing so well. You can ski and you can ride horses and you can kayak and you can make videos and you can do stuff like that, and look how well you're doing." Uh, you know, Again, I appreciate the sentiment. I understand that it's meant to encourage, but it's really not a good thing to do. It's just not. When someone is sharing their struggles and they're sharing the things for them that are incredibly difficult in life, and the response is, "Oh, but look how well you're doing, and what I can see." What that does is it completely dismisses everything the person is trying to share with you. We experience our emotions and our traumas and the things that we struggle with. It's very, I don't know that it's possible for a neurotypical person to fully grasp how intense these experiences can be for us. So what happens is when we get used to people telling us, "Oh, just, think about the positive things," or "Oh, you're doing so well," what that does is it prevents us from really being able to express what we're really going through, and it prevents us from being able to ask for help. When someone is expressing that kind of a struggle, it's very important to consider the thought that maybe this person is asking for help, especially because a lot of the times when we are in crisis, we don't look like we're in crisis. It's sometimes very difficult for people to recognize that we're in crisis because we don't always appear as, critical as we actually are. And so if an autistic person is sharing their struggles with you, they might need you to just acknowledge that, validate that. Or they might need you to help them through a crisis that you don't realize is going on. So if you just say, "Oh, well, just think about the positives," or "Oh, you're doing well in other areas," that doesn't help. And it's better to just say, "How can I help?" Or it's better to just listen and just validate what the person is trying to tell you. And ask the person, "Are you in need of help?" Because the person might not need you to help. They might not want you to help. They might just want you to listen. They might just want you to be there. They might just want you to acknowledge and validate. But in some cases, they might desperately need your help. It could be a very, very intensely critical moment for them. So You have to listen and you have to ask the questions. Don't just try to make people feel better by throwing platitudes at them. Platitudes and autism don't go well together. Not a good combination. So I'm hoping that we can start a dialogue about this together because it is very important, and we don't want people feeling so invalidated that they end up in a tragic situation. So thank you so much for watching this, and please comment if these are things that irritate you, or if these are things that don't bother you, or however you feel about them. It's important that we know and that we share and that we talk about these issues. So thank you again so much, and look forward to seeing you all next time. And thank you for liking and subscribing, and those of you who have not, please do.